you know?
The,
Yalta, where they
yes,
divided up Europe?
it was certainly before Yalta. This was during World War II. At the, let's see, would it be in the beginning? It was right in the midst of all that was going on.
That's quite a crazy period of
Isn't
time.
It was.
Priceless
and,
picture.
You know,
And then the one with the Shah or whoever.
yeah, the Shah of Iran, and your granddad was special ambassador
Arabian swords. Her and the other one we were talking about giving them to the Islamic community or
and
museum
that's
or
how
whatever.
they ended up with these photos. And of course, he had that group that he was standing
Like that
with.
yesterday.
That was his flying, his crew of the plane that he was flying, that they were flying.
Wow, what a great photo.
So ma'am, we just wanted to say, number one, congratulations to you and your family and your friends. This is truly a special day. Jordy just talked about that in terms of the connection with Norland, Schultz, and Wilson, and his impact on the New Mexico Air National Guard. Today we're enshrining him into the New Mexico Hall of Honor, as you know. He's going to take his rightful place with Norland and Schultz is part of the history of New Mexico in our museum. And we're very excited about the exhibit that we're working with you on that'll start in February to bring his art to even a broader part of the community. But more than anything, we just want you to know that you'll always be part of our family in the New Mexico Air National Guard. On behalf of our Adjutant General, General Miguel Aguilar, congratulations. I know you can't be there tonight, but we're all going to be thinking about you.
Well, I will be thinking of you too.
Yes, ma'am. Congratulations. Chief has an award for you as well.
Yes, ma'am. So along with that plaque, we always give to our recipients this medallion, and as part of the induction ceremony for the class of 2025. And getting to know you over the past couple of months has been fantastic. Your stories will resonate. We have the video now that people for many, many years will be able to listen to your words and what it meant for you guys to serve in the Air National Guard and what it meant to service for this country. And as I was mentioning earlier, you guys are warriors, both of you. And so thank you for your service. And if it's okay, can I put this on you?
Absolutely.
Here.
Well, I had no idea that
It fits.
I certainly wore the right dress.
Yes, you did. Perfect. Can we take a very quick photo with you, ma'am?
Sure.
Or do you want to sit, or do you?
No, I'd like to stand. That's nice.
Very nice.
Yay.
Huzzah!
So pleased that you're here, and Wilson would be really touched because he loved all of you. All of you he knew, and it was the Guard and the Air Force and all of these associations were basic to our lives. And we were very, very fortunate, and to be together today is really special.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. Thank you.
We'll now play a video on behalf of Lt Col Wilson Hurley.
If you don't mind doing that. Yeah. You can hold it down here if you want. That's up to you. Just
When the war started, he wanted to enlist. Well, they were offering like flight training at West Point. You know, there was no Air Force yet. He thought that he probably would fail. He was on his way back flying. He thought, well, I've blown this, so I'm just going to show this guy that I do know how to fly, I do know something about it. So he turned himself upside down, the plane upside down, and flew all the way to the base after finishing West Point. Ended up in a unit of air sea rescue in the Philippines. When he came to New Mexico, he enlisted in National Guard. The Guard deployed. He looked around and tried to find a deployment that would take him to Vietnam. He knew about forward air controllers. The people who were looking for forward air controllers, he made a connection with them. He made the case that he was qualified. The images he had of when he was in Vietnam, when he was flying, and even when he was on the ground, it just embedded in his memory. And he had all kinds of images. And so he decided that he needed to paint them. He continued to paint Vietnam from those first years all the way up to the end. He basically felt himself to be a New Mexican and never looked back.
In honor of Lt Col Hurley, we welcome family members to the stage to be presented the Hall of Honor Medal and plaque.
Came back, got his law degree, got an engineering degree, started a law practice, had us, 5 of us, and then started flying again with the Air National Guard. And after my parents got a divorce, he wanted to go back to Nam, went over to Nam, flew as a forward air controller, and came back and decided he'd always painted during all this time, but wanted to find out whether or not he was any good. And so he got a little studio apartment at Wind Rock Apartments in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he started painting. He had a little studio set up in what most people would have had as a living room. And he started painting, started judging art contests throughout the Southwest. And his painting got better and better, and people started to appreciate his paintings. And if you've never been there and you get to the Oklahoma City, please visit the Oklahoma City Hall of Fame, where he has 5 triptychs. They are truly spectacular. He loved large format painting. Again, my father was very much a man of service, and he believed in service. He taught service, and he felt it was his obligation to serve. And I can tell you that his joy of flying and his joy was only exceeded by the loyalty and the appreciation he had for all of the people in the Guard who, when he came back from Nam, it wasn't rough. He was not a popular guy. And the people of the National Guard stood behind him, and I can't tell you how much it meant to him personally. So I know if he were alive today, he would look at this as one of the great accomplishments of his life. I thank you.
Hi, I'm Jordy Womack, a retired Air Guard guy, and my dad got inducted last year, and Norland Daughtry got inducted a couple years before that to start the triptych, if you will, of Norland and Schultz and Wilson. And I just wanted to touch base on a couple items. Norland volunteered to go to Vietnam as a member of the New Mexico Air National Guard. He left and went back to regular service, which was unheard of at that time, to fight for freedom and try to liberate people that were being oppressed. And he got shot down on his 17th mission and spent 7.5 years in the zoo in the Hanoi Hilton. And he was the reason my father was very excited when our unit got activated and eventually called up to be one of 4 Air Guard units to go to Vietnam. So Schultz and 24 other pilots went over there for a year and flew out of Tuiwa. And one of the staff officers that had the ungracious job of getting them ready to go over there was Wilson Hurley, because he had given up flying the F-100 because he was 6'6", and he knew he couldn't survive an ejection, and he had an awkward time trying to fly the airplane, even though he loved flying fighters. He'd flown bigger airplanes after, in post-World War II and everything. So he had become an operational support pilot and other things in the Guard, staff officer. And when all his buddies went over there, he couldn't stand it. He knew he had to get over there. And that's what Rosalind, his lovely widow, was alluding to there. So Dad and the guys get over to Tuiwa, and they're all building a bar, which is important if you're in the Air Guard versus the Army Guard. But they were flying missions and doing their trick, and a little while into their time, a 6'6" guy walked into their bar, and none of them could believe. You have to imagine the shock. Nobody knew that Wilson had, as a 44-year-old man, had given up everything to get over there because his buddies were over there. And, their real buddy was in prison, a guest of the Viet Cong, as Norland always said. But anyway, it made quite an impact, and Wilson flew out of Phu Cat, and the other guys flew out of Tuiwa, and they didn't see each other very often. Once in a while they did, but they all came home together. And he married Rosalind 2 days after landing with my father out here at the ramp in Albuquerque. And he proposed to her through letters, and she accepted through letters, and they were married 2 days later. And she built canvases, she stretched linen for him to paint on, and they built a life together that is one of the love stories of all of our lifetimes, in my opinion. And I'm up here to tell part of that story, and if you want to hear the rest of the story and see a lot of art that has never been open to the public, pieces that he never showed to anyone, that he never tried to sell, but he had to get them out of his system, like they said. There will be an exhibition beginning in February that will run a year here in this museum with the blessing of Rosalind and with her strong involvement at 90 years old, and with the wonderful people who run this museum. We're putting it all together, and it'll be done by February 12th, and we'll have a debut. And the only other thing I want to say is, having the honor of having our father in here, my sisters are here with me, Norland Daughtry's sons are here, and Wilson's son is here. It's really neat that these 3 guys who loved each other so much, and their wives loved each other, to be able to say that Wilson's going to be honored with a 1-year exhibition posthumously, it's really going to be neat. So please attend these every year. All the deserving people that get put in this Hall of Honor, it's an amazing thing, and don't just come when you know somebody. Come to hear the stories and come to see the museum. And thank you all for being here tonight. We really appreciate it.
He wanted to be in the Army. He wanted to be in the Air Force, actually, but there wasn't an Air Force yet. So when the war started, he wanted to enlist. And his dad said, well, yeah, he said, maybe you ought to enlist because you probably couldn't pass the entrance exam to get to West Point. And Wilson said, what do you mean? Who can't pass that exam? And so, of course, he was kind of trapped into it. So Wilson took the exam. He got in, and they were offering light flight training at West Point. It was a rigorous training, and he thought that he probably would fail because he had made some serious mistakes, and he was on his way back flying as the pilot with his trainer, and he thought, well, I've blown this, so I'm just going to show this guy that I do know how to fly, I do know something about it. So he turned himself upside down, the plane upside down, and flew all the way to the base, upside down, turned back it. So they said, okay, this guy he's comfortable in the airplane, and so they let him continue. So he had a commitment of 4 years after finishing, was stationed in the Philippines, and ended up in a unit of air-sea rescue. Well, he was about to finish the 4 years, and his dad was pressuring him to get out. And he would have stayed in because he really loved the military and he wanted to continue. And so that's when his dad said, well, you might as well get out. And he got pressured to go to law school. He was married to Norma Frost, who was a daughter of one of the attorneys there in Washington, D.C. And they moved out to New Mexico. He didn't want to stay there in Washington. They had 5 children, and all that time he was practicing law. But then she was not happy with him, and they decided to get divorced. He continued to practice law for a little while, but his heart was in painting, and so he made sure that his family was safe and cared for financially. He really then decided he would devote himself to his love, which was painting. He was writing this will of a man who was dying of cancer. So he sat back and he said to his secretary, if you were going to die, what would be one of the last things you'd be interested in doing? And she said, well, she said, I would really like to travel. And she said, what would you like to do? And he said, well, I would get myself some good paints and good brushes, and I tried to paint at least one really good painting. And he went home that night, and he thought, what am I doing practicing law? What am I doing devoting myself to something I really don't like? And that was a resolution that he made at the time that he would start painting. Well, of course, his commitment to the military was number one. When he was flying, that was his love too. And so when he came to New Mexico, he enlisted in the Air National Guard, and they were getting ready to deploy. And he had given up his flying status, and when they were recalled, he couldn't bear the thought of going to some place and working a desk job for the time that he was recalled active duty. And so when they finally left, he looked around and tried to find a deployment that would take him to Vietnam. And that's when he learned about the forward air controllers and contacted somebody and told them his qualifications. And the man who was on the phone with him, who had been looking for forward air controllers, turned around to the room and said, "I found one." And we had corresponded a great deal, and we kind of got to know each other that way. And so he asked me to marry him when he was in Vietnam. And we got married immediately after he got back. He didn't paint in Vietnam, and he didn't take a camera or anything, but he had pretty much a photographic memory. And so the paintings that he did were just more important to him than anything. He didn't have a feeling of painting the mountains or anything. He had a feeling of painting Vietnam. He needed to. He did a number of paintings of Vietnam because it was really in his mind. And so, but he had to paint that. It was in his mind and part of who he was. And so he continued to paint Vietnam from those first years all the way up till the end. And so we kept them, and when it became appropriate to give them to the Air Force, of course he did. So they have about 15 paintings, I think, at the U.S. Air Force Museum at Wright-Patterson. He was diagnosed with ALS in January of that year, and he was intending to continue to paint, but he didn't really have the energy anymore. He lived another probably 8 months, and all the time wanting to get back to painting, but he couldn't do it. Passed away in 2008. Well, he loved the world. He loved the beauty of the world, and he really wanted to communicate that in painting, the beauty that he saw in the world and in his life.